ash and so on from the fire. And
I'm such a fool thinking I won't get caught in your downhill flow. Swept away. What good is a beautiful day? I'm alone and you. You're in the car at night. Blue, my only flaw.
well, good night to you. And I'm trusting that you would have had a good day. I know we were away for some 2 weeks, but you know what? Lots and lots of things are happening. In and around our country. We have an outbreak of, I must tell you, we have an outbreak of dengue and typhoid. We also have COVID, which is on the rise again. And these are things that the Ministry of Health, the Minister of Health, they're not saying anything about. And lots of our citizens are down with these illnesses. And so I want to caution you to be careful when you go out there. Mask is not mandatory, but I would ask that you wear your mask, especially if you're going to be in large crowds. Wear your mask. Today we are looking at the PPP, the beast, the real beast, the PPP. Y'all think they're easy? You'll hear about it a little later on. But at this time, we want to say how happy I am to be here again with you. Some of these issues, they feel that they can keep me down, but I am a survivor, I'm a fighter. And so I might be down for a week or two, but I'm going to be up again to let you know what's happening on advancing the cause. And so, folks, we want to extend happy birthday wishes to all those persons who would have celebrated their birthdays last week and this week. Up to today, we want to extend best wishes to you. And we trust that this new chapter will allow you to be even more emboldened so you'll be able to speak on issues that are happening in this country. You'll be given the kind of guidance that you need so that you will be able to champion the challenges that come your way from time to time. And of course, we want to extend our deepest sympathies to those who have lost loved ones. Right here at our office, we've lost former staff. Mr. Ross, and we want to extend at this time our sincerest condolences to his relatives, to his wife and his daughter, and his other siblings and other relatives. We know how tough it is, how difficult it is to lose a loved one. And sometimes we say gone too soon. And yes, I can tell you this one was a really, really shocker, really, really shocker. And indeed, Sherlin has gone too soon. But you know what? We cannot question things like these. The most we would say is God knows best. And he has left a legacy, and we trust that his daughter and his wife, they're going to be comforted by that fact. Before we go further into this program, I want to introduce to you my guest for this evening. She's no stranger to these kinds of programs, but it's the first time for her here, and we want to give her the royal welcome. And so, Madam Dawn Hastings Williams, General Secretary of the PNCR and a Member of Parliament, we want to say welcome to you to Advancing the Cause. On this forum, we share quite a lot of what is happening. And of course, we tell this story as it is. We don't have any kind of makeup to put on and lipsticks and so on. We tell the truth. And so welcome to Advancing the Cause. I think you might very well want to say to our audience how you feel about being here and a little bit about Dawn Hastings.
Thank you, Miss McDonald, and thank you for having me on your program this evening. I want to say good evening, good night to all Guyanese and those who are tuned on to our program, watching and listening, advancing
The cause.
the cause. I am Dawn Hastings Williams. As my colleague rightly said, I am a member of Parliament, geographical representative for Region Number 7, Cuyuni Mazaruni. I hailed from a little village, an indigenous village in the Upper Mazaruni, and it's a pleasure to be here to share what is happening around our country. And as she quite rightly said, we're not going to sugarcoat it. We tell it as it is.
Yep. Mhm. Well, tonight our topic is we're talking about the PPP, the real beast. And we've seen so many things happening that has caused us to really conclude that the PPP are indeed beasts. First of all, we want to talk about the Madia issue. I noticed that the government, they're trying their best to sweep this issue under the carpet. Here is where we lost 20, not only indigenous children, but 20 children who had potentials. And we have another child who's locked away because everything has been thrown on her. We want to talk a little bit about that this evening. And I know that it is not an easy fate to have, especially for those parents who would have lost two daughters, a cousin and a niece, two sisters, not twins, but two sisters again. It's not easy. And to have 11 coming from one community. Madam Hastings.
Well, I must agree with you, Mrs. McDonald, that indeed we have lost. It is so sad that we have lost 20 potential leaders of this country.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
20 potential leaders, and 20 is too much to lose with a population of less than 1 million.
Well, I know that losing one child or losing one loved one is hard, much more to lose 20 and 11 coming from one community. I could understand the disarray that entire community is still in. So we had 11, and I think we had 6 and some others from other communities. What are your thoughts on this whole issue that we now have where we're hearing about a $5 million final payout?
Okay, well, it has been 50 plus days since that incident occurred in Madia. And at some time, the president did announce, it's public news, that he is ready or he's planned to establish a commission of inquiry, COI. And so far, to my knowledge, it's also in the public view that the news that he had identified someone to be the head or the chair of the COI.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
it stopped there. It has stopped there. However, the latest news that I read is that $5 million
$5 million.
Guyana dollars was given to the parents. I cannot say at this time if all of the parents accepted it. I cannot say at this time, but the news said that $5 million were given to the parents of those children or the family of those children who perished under that fire. Now, 5 million Guyana dollars. What was the criteria used? Were there any consultations with these families? Did this family have access to legal persons as to advise them, on the offer that they were being, grant or that they were being given? My sense, knowing those indigenous communities, growing up in an indigenous community, it's difficult for you to have access to a legal person. In regular circumstances, it's difficult for you to acquire a lawyer. You'll have to send for them from Georgetown or elsewhere to come there. Now, the Attorney General himself went in. That was what I read. That's what I heard. To distribute these monies. Now, I keep saying over and over, there is an imbalance, total imbalance. You as the Attorney General representing the state, you have a legal background. You're the advisor to the government on legal matters. You're going into this indigenous community. I don't know how many lawyers you can find in Maikobi at present, how many lawyers you can find in Karisparu, how many lawyers are there in Kopinang. I'd be very happy if the government can say to me that we have trained so many indigenous young persons or persons. We had given them scholarship to study law. And so in Maikobi, we have 2 lawyers. In Karisparu, we have a lawyer there too. In Kopinang and in Madia, we have 5 lawyers. That would be somewhat fair to those persons, to the families. But I know for a fact that we don't have access to those in this indigenous community. So going to offer a $5 million Guyana dollars to the family to offset, I don't know if Mr. Nandalal or the president, if he's going to lose his son under that circumstance. Will he accept $5 million?
Well, it's the same question I am asking. It's the same question that our viewers are asking. If a child's life is worth $5 million, and you know what is very, very sad about this whole thing is that from the way you are seeing things are unfolding, it seems as if our indigenous brothers and sisters were just bullied into taking this $5 million. $5 million for your child, having sent your child in the care of the government. What you receive early one morning is a message that your child is dead. The next thing you are hearing is that we are going to take care of the funeral expenses. And we made a big show was made about that, if you remember. After that, we are now hearing $5 million. Is this what our Amerindian children, that's the worth of their lives? $5 million? Something is seriously wrong somewhere. Something is seriously wrong somewhere. And like you rightfully said, was there any attempt to have them given any form of legal representation? How long did we have were we having this kind of conversation so as to come up with this amount of $5 million? And it seems as if this is the thing. There was a time when in the PPP, you knew at the end of the year what you were getting as your increases. It's either 5%, 3%, or 5%. But now it's 5 million, 7 million, $10 million. So anything that happens now is 5 million, 7 million, $10 million. But how do we equate this compensation of $5 million? And like you rightfully said, the Attorney General himself went there, and one, it leads one to wonder whether Priya Manik Chand would accept something like that, God forbid, if something were to happen to one of her children. The president is having two sons now. Would he be comfortable being treated the way these Amerindian brothers and sisters are being treated? Is it that because they're quiet in nature, you feel that you can just run over them all the time? I wonder. And what is even more disheartening is the fact that you don't hear all of these leaders saying anything. Nothing, absolutely nothing you hear from some of these leaders. And I just heard, by the way, maybe you'd be able to expound on it, that the Minister of Amerindian Affairs, I think by now she should have had the kind of discipline, the kind of common courtesy to send her resignation in. I heard she made some statement somewhere at the UN or somewhere sometime recently.
Well, I'm in agreement with you, and for our information, yes, indeed, there is a headline on the news source. This is Gordon Mosley's program: Rights of Indigenous People in Guyana being upheld. Amerindian Affairs Minister tells UN Forum.
Oh, wow.
If she had said to UN, I wonder if she had said to UN, we had just distributed $5 million to compensate for the 20 lives that were lost at the dormitory. I wonder what would have been UN response. But she did not say that. Of course, she will not. And I have found the PPP government to be handing out cash grants here, cash grants there, everywhere. Why is it that my indigenous brothers and sisters had to sign an agreement when receiving this money of $5 million? Why it couldn't be given as a cash grant and simply just sign a receipt as receiving? What was that agreement about? Well, that is why I was saying, Coretta, these people did not have access to legal representation. And you see this all around. I was in Hillfoot Sunday gone. Many of our indigenous brothers and sisters there are displaced. Their homes were broken down. Mm-hmm. Some of them were asked to come to the police station. The police are in and out there. They were taken to the police station and is being forced to sign. When the persons asked, should I read? Before I said, you cannot read. Who are these people, Coretta? Well, where are we going in Guyana?
Well, I'm hoping that our viewers are listening and they're hearing exactly what is happening, especially our indigenous brothers and sisters. I hope that they're reading through the lines that the PPP are a bunch of beasts and they don't care about you except for when they want your votes. They rush down there, they give you some rice, some sugar, some flour, they carry some high wine, some vodka, and they drunk you the night before so that the next morning you wake up and you go and vote for them. I mean, this is embarrassing. This is the people who talk about one Guyana, and this is the way you're treating our indigenous people. And you know what? I found something very strange yesterday, where the residents of Campbelltown had to protest yesterday and the day before. And they were protesting simply because the remainder of the dorm was dismantled. Remember, we heard about this COI. And I'm thinking, and any right-minded citizen would want to believe that if you're going to have a COI, then the evidence there must remain. Whatever you have there must remain as evidence. So if you were to go out there and do some check or take samples and so on, then you will be able to come up with a final wording, a final verdict, who is at fault, who not at fault, and who should be held accountable. But yesterday, the residents were protesting because they have broken that down and they took the debris from there and they were filling holes in Campbelltown. Now, who authorized that? Was there anybody there to do testing of the samples there to ensure that you hadn't the remainders of the, and yes, we're seeing it on the screen here. Those are some of the samples from some of the debris from the fire, where they just took them and they started filling holes. Who was there? Was somebody there who did the testing to ensure that we hadn't ash remaining from the bodies of those children? I mean, these people can't be more heartless than they are right now. And like we rightfully said, the PPP, the real beast. How are our parents, our indigenous parents, supposed to feel with this kind of this debris here being dumped on the streets? These are parts of your children, ash from your children being dumped on the streets. I mean, is there something that we have to hide?
Well, anyone who is following the stories, in fact, stories that has involved our indigenous brothers and sisters, we still have this hot story about our indigenous young woman who allegedly, reported that gruesome act that was meted out of her. That is still fresh. I know it is the PPP's aim, or the PPP's thing is to let that fall under the rug. They wanted to quiet it down as much as fast as it could. But we cannot, Coretta, you and I, as representatives of the people, we cannot be quiet. We cannot allow this to happen because justice has not been served.
Has not been served at all.
The victim has not been served her justice. The perpetrator hasn't gone to face the courts. He hasn't been charged. So resignation from parliament, resigning from being a minister, is not something that should be seen as a resolution or a solution to a problem. That means nothing as long as justice is not served. And so, coming back to Madia's story, all these things are happening, and everything happens for a purpose. I always believe in everything that happens, whether it's good or bad. God has a purpose for allowing it to happen. He does not, it was not God's will for those children to be killed in such an unfortunate manner, in that way, because he's a God of love. But certain things he allows to happen for a purpose. And we all will see. It will be revealed why these things are happening one after the other. Guyana is experiencing too many things happening at one time. Yesterday, there was a protest in Particle.
Yes.
Then there was a protest in Madia. Then there was a protest outside in front of a housing yesterday. Wow. Why are all these protests happening? You see, I want to commend all those persons who use their rights, their democratic rights to come out, to protest against what was bothering them. They have a concern. And these are national interests, these are national issues. Putting out someone from a home, taking the debris of a place where children were burned. COI has not even begun its work. It has not been completed. That's why my question was, who recommended that these parents be given $5 million? Why is it that we're hurrying, it appears to be like covering up? Like you rightly said, is there anything to hide? Of course, Coretta, there is so much that came out of this incident. We heard about the UNICEF, is it UNICEF report?
Yeah.
About the dormitory. So that the Minister of Education or the Ministry of Education has a copy of that report. And it's a public document. And so they were warned. The fire service had made a statement that they were there sometime in November or October.
And in February of this year, they had recommended that those grills be taken off, that it's not safe.
Good. And so far, the work of the COI has not begun. Nobody has been charged. What happened to those adults who were in charge of the children?
That's exactly what happened.
What happened to the regional officials who falls under the state, the workers who were responsible, the Department of Education?
But outside of the Department of Education, what has happened to the RDC? What the Minister of Local Government, the Ministers of Local Government, that the region falls directly under them? Who gave the authority or who gave approval for all those windows to be grilled and locked? Who gave the authority? Why weren't those grills removed when the fire service went there to do their inspection and they advised that it was not safe? Why weren't those grills removed? Why is it that we now have locked down a little 15-year-old girl who was slapped with 20 murder charges and no adult. What were these persons doing when they recognized that this child was rebelling? What were they doing? Was there any form of counseling applied to this little girl? Was she counseled at any time? What really sparked this kind of outrage from this young lady to have wanted to first conceptualize in her mind that she was going to light this place afire, and two, knowing fully well that her peers were there, and the possibility existed that they would have died. Where was the house mother? Where were the other persons, the other adults who were supposed to be around there? And there are so many questions and we can't answer them because there's no COI. What do we do now after? Where do we go from here after the payout of $5 million?
Coretta, what I want to say about that now is that it appears, as you rightly said, not me, but the PPP is making themselves looking or appearing to be the beast. And when you said the PPP, the beast, everything that is happening under their governance presently, they also have a history. But let's look at today. Let's look at present times. Everything that is happening one after the other, the way how it is being done, the way how investigations are being carried out, if there has been any at all, it stands out clear that the indigenous people of this land has no it's not important. Their lives are not meaningful. The contributions that they make,
or have made,
because they've been making contributions
Yes,
all the time, all along. Have made, it's if I'm going to rate it under the PPP's mantra, 0. I'd rate it as 0. Because how can you treat the indigenous peoples of this land? They're Guyanese just like anybody else.
And mind you, we talk about one Guyana all the time. Eh? We hear the one Guyana. Everything is about one Guyana. Almost everywhere you go, you see the big one Guyana slogan. You go to Madia, you see the big one Guyana slogan. You go to Lethem, you see it there. Right on the seawalls there, you have the one Guyana. I think at the airport, you have the one Guyana. Everywhere.
Everywhere is
one Guyana. But yet, different persons are treated differently. But as we move off from the Madia issue, which we have to keep on the front burner, because these parents, they must be satisfied. They must feel compensated, not monetarily in every instance or in this instance, but they must feel satisfied that there was an investigation and these were the findings of the investigation and several persons were held accountable. Something must be done and we have to keep this on the burner. But let's go to the other issue that you started raising, the Nigel Dharamlall saga with the 16-year-old. Now, when we look at those who died, they were within that same age range, except for maybe a few of them and a little boy. But again, Nigel Dharamlall is being featured here. What are we to understand from these things?
I told you things happen for a purpose. And so it's the same minister, the same ministry that is responsible. But just before we move up, what really disturbed me extremely is the fact when I read in the news that the AG said the government, is doing this. It does not have to do it.
Wow.
The government doesn't have to do it, but we as a caring government, we paid for the transportation of the children and the parents to bring them as if it's a favor you do. In hell no. It is your responsibility as a state. The parents trusted the lives of their children into the hands of the state. bring them from home, their little comfort zone, to the dormitory just to gain a formal education. It was the responsibility of the state
To ensure that they're
to
protected
ensure that
and
the
that they're
children
safe.
were protected, they were well fed, they were safe at all times.
Well, don't talk about the welfare part. We can talk about the welfare part just now. But we want to focus on these issues. Here is it, 20 lives were lost. You decide. You, in actual fact, you were saying to the parents, well, your children went there, a little girl light the fire, and she burned them up so we can deal with her, we can lock her up. We didn't have to do anything, but we did. And we are continuing to do by offering you a payout of $5 million. And then we have the Nigel Dharamlall issue here now, where we learned that a $10 million was paid as compensation. Now, I want to first of all commend that little 16-year-old after all the trauma that she's been through. I want to commend her for being able to stand up and to speak on what has happened to her. And we saw the whole drama that went behind it, as if it were a play that was being played out at the cultural center. She made a report. The senior superintendent, who's the superintendent who's the commander there, he tried to cover up the thing, and you're not hearing anything about that. Absolutely nothing. You were hearing. He tried to cover up by putting forward a statement that the girl wrote a statement saying that it did not happen, or she didn't want any story, some kind of rigmarole story. But he was not supposed to be there. How is it that a commander, when was a report made? Where is the I forget the name of the book that they usually, the occurrence book that they usually write these things in? Where is that book? Why wasn't that published, that a report was made, so that when this young lady came to say, well, I didn't want any further story, that you could have presented both? All we're seeing is that the young lady wrote some statement according to the superintendent, but we're not seeing any statement, any report made by this young lady. So how is it that you're taking a recanting statement when you had no report? I mean, we have not been to the police training school, but you and I know that we passed through the Cyril Potter College of Education, and we understand what it is when there are scenes, how to do your reporting. We know what we have to do in our journal entries and in our log books and so on when things happen in schools. And so for the police to be telling us the kinds of things that they're telling us, they are doing two things to us. One, they're insulting our intelligence. And two, they feel that we are stupid and people don't understand things that are happening. And these issues, we've got to continue to play them on the forefront. The commissioner of police must tell us who instructed that officer. As a matter of fact, the Minister of Home Affairs should be making a statement on this. But you notice all of these people, quiet. I'll ask the operator to show some of the famous ones, the famous quiet ones who are sometimes very boisterous in Parliament. When they're shouting for rape, they're shouting for dildo, they're shouting for all kind of thing. But at this stage, they are absolutely quiet. Now, we got a resignation. We heard about the resignation from Dharamlall, from as being a minister and from being a parliamentarian. What happens now? Is it that the story finished there after you would have gotten the resignation? We want the black and white one is a good one. Yes. Is that the end of the story? Is that the end of the story?
Well, Coretta, I am not surprised that many of them are quiet. You know, there was a loud shouting of rape in the parliament some time ago. I don't believe you were there yet. I don't think
No,
you were
I
there
was
in
not.
parliament,
There.
but I was there. I went through an experience that I would never want to happen again in that parliament. And it's not because we wanted to, but because of what was happening. We heard raped, we heard disrespecting the speaker, and I wouldn't want to relive that time, that experience that I had again. And it was, yes, our colleague Member of Parliament, Mrs. Priya Manik Chen, I give her kudos when it's due to her.
Yes.
I give her kudos because
And of course, I have to put lashes on her when she got to get lashes.
Exactly.
Because the thing is, Priya was the person who took that bill to Parliament.
Exactly.
And now she's absolutely quiet. She's not even saying, well, if my colleague minister, if he's guilty, let's allow for an investigation. And if he's found guilty, then he will have to face the consequences. Absolutely nothing you're hearing from Priya. And not only Priya, you got Suzanne, you got Sonia. Well, I don't know what happened to Auntie Gail because you don't see Auntie Gail, you don't see her featuring here at all.
You forget the Minister of Armenian Affairs.
Well, she is a different cutler fish or a different kettle of fish, whatever you want to call her. I don't understand what is happening with Pauline. And Pauline got the gumption to say she's going to the UN to speak about indigenous people are being respected and whatever. I don't understand this woman. Something seems to be going wrong with these women. These women within the PPP, they are just being suppressed. They're under, I want to say, a spell because you're not hearing anything from them. None of them could say anything. And it's not the first time it's happening. When we had the issue in Parliament with our colleague Tabitha, none of those women in Parliament said anything. Is it that they can't speak? Or they have to be told when to speak?
It appears to be so. Anybody who's observing, and you know what, Coretta? We can sit and watch a movie and we can predict how it will end.
But,
You just have to see one or two characters and you follow the music, and then you can say to you, if me and you, I say, I know how this movie will end. How this, and that is exactly what was happening into these investigations with this young lady. From the beginning, the way how it was handled, and you spoke about it with the commander, he coming in to do his part in this movie. And then you had the perpetrator, or the actor, the main actor.
Yes,
going to do this. And this movie style. You go and you repaint these walls. Well, I am very fond of those buildings in Ichilbar Villas.
Well, you would know.
Yes, and you go there. And the way the girl explained it is clearly seen if you follow in the movie. Climbing up the stairs. I know those buildings. You can't tell me there's no stairs going up and taking you into the bedroom. I can picture that very clearly. So that woman, this young lady, is very intelligent. And then when I saw that missive going around, even including my name, when I looked at it, it's totally different than the report that the young lady made. And, there was another thing that, they have never met me. I don't have to know you, my dear sister. I don't have to know you to stand up for your rights.
Exactly.
You are a Guyanese. More so you're indigenous, of an indigenous origin like me. I don't have to know you. But the mere fact, the mere fact that you stood out there and you said that you want to take this opportunity to stand up for the indigenous women, which she rightly did. And I keep commending her for her courageous, for her bravery, in doing that. But as a child, I don't think she understood and she knew that the backlash that she would have been given. She had trusted that adult.
Yep.
And being a minister, growing up in these small indigenous communities, the social life we were always taught. Whenever someone in a high authority comes visiting your school or your community, we always look up to this person as somebody respectable. That's the social life that we live in these small indigenous communities. The Tushao, the minister, the president, whoever comes. Even if we don't like you, we were taught, respect the office. You have to respect the office of these persons. And so, like I said, it's like a movie. The minute you see what was happening, monitoring day after day, how the investigation was being done, I wasn't surprised at the end result because that was where it was leading to. Having this child like a prisoner, treating her as the perpetrator, not as the
Frustrating
victim,
her.
and frustrated. And that was their aim. You see that in a lot of movies.
Well, operator, we have to make have our famous folks on screen. We have to have Nigel there. We must have Pauline. We must have Vindi. We must have Sonia. We must have Priya Manichan. We must see the director of public prosecution. We must see all of them there. When you watch this boy Nigel face, it's sheer wickedness you're seeing in this boy face. He is so evil that almost every photograph that you see of him now, and you try to analyze it, all you can see is wickedness going through his head. The mere fact that he could come to talk about dildo in the parliament, it tells you that this boy is sick. I hope that somebody, that they're having some sort of counseling or something being given to him. He has a very good friend who's a pastor, an Adventist pastor. He has a very good friend. I hope he's doing some praying for him. They're very, very close. But the other thing is, this same young man, Nigel Dharamlall, would talk about him being a student of President's College. I figure that the old students, they're so embarrassed now that they probably, if they see him on the streets, they want to strip him. This boy ain't got no shame. And I mean, it has been not the first time we're hearing of allegations, but it's the first time that somebody actually came out and spoke about this. Just recently, I was in Region 9, and folks, they were telling me that he has a daughter in Tiger Pond area, somewhere there. They were telling me that he has a daughter there. And people don't, these things, like critics would say, we just can't make this up, or I just can't make this up. People know the story. Parents have entrusted their children, their daughters, into the hands of ministers when the ministers come there, the girls would go there and greet them. And parents innocently send their children there, not knowing what is going through the minds of these evil guys. Dharamlall is not an easy guy. And I really didn't want to get here, but I have to get here. Nigel representing Nigel. The same Nigel Dharamlall who kept saying all kinds of ill things about Nigel Hughes, and he can't count, and he can't do this, and he can't do that. That was the same person he took to represent him. Well, I don't understand what is happening. I couldn't understand what was happening there. But I must conclude that the PPP are a bunch of beasts. The real beast, when you want to see them, check Freedom House, the PPP. And then now we're hearing about all of this confusion. So Nigel has resigned. We're having a replacement for Nigel in the parliament. And so maybe that's the end of the story. Put up our famous ones. We want to see the debris from Campbelltown, and we want to see Dharamlall, and we want our viewers to see Priya and Sonia. If you find Sonia and you find Vindi, we must put Vindi up there, and the director of public prosecutions, we must put her up there too. Because I'm wondering whether some of these women, they don't have a heart. But if you're in the beast camp, you can't get heart anymore. You can't have a heart. These people are just disgusting. And I'm hoping that our viewers, the people in this country, the citizens in this country, that they're taking note. Because it's not the first time a PPP minister, allegations would have been made, and then they ask them to resign. I'm waiting to see what post they're going to give to Nigel Dharamlall, because they have a history of when their ministers misbehave, they pull them off from the ministry and then they give them another posting. So we had the issue of Gajraj. We had the issue of, is Naubat, what name? Is Naubat?
Naubat, yeah.
That they sent to Brazil to be the ambassador. We had so many issues with the PPP and their ministers. And when it's not their ministers, it's their Rexos. And when it's not the Rexos, it's the PSs. All kinds of issues we're having with them. And they just simmer it down and they find somewhere else to put them. We got poor Ben. He didn't even know what party there. All of them are so tainted. We got Palaury Joe. who doesn't understand where he is. And these are the people there. Look, some of our, just put up those famous people there and let the viewers see them. They have no shame. They have no decency about themselves. You were going to say something, Dawn.
I said we must never forget the REO of Region 9.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Who shot the
Who
young woman?
shot the young indigenous woman.
Another
And
indigenous.
you see,
indigenous.
another indigenous girl shot that woman. That young lady was taken to the hospital and treated. And I am not surprised. They probably think that a story has died. But I want to tell them that as soon as they think that one story has died, another one is going to pop up. And it will continue to like that until they change their attitude towards our indigenous boys.
Well,
And in general, Guyanese boys and girls. Because not only indigenous, we've heard stories about other ministers luring our young boys and all sorts of
things.
allegations.
We remember the issue of...
So when I speak on behalf of all Guyanese children, young, doesn't matter the creed, they call or whatever. They're all Guyanese.
I'm trying to remember the name of the little boy with Kwame. I can't. It just slipped me. I can't remember the name of it. Julius. Yes, we had the famous tape with Julius and Kwame. I mean, and then there's this rumor that you hear about name change. One Edgil was Cummins, and he changed his name to Edgil because of some mix-up story. So this is a whole bunch of beasts we got there sitting in a cabinet all by themselves. And nobody could tell anybody anything. A bunch of beasts we got there. And these people got no shame. These are the people who want to tell you how to do this, how to do that. They want to lecture to you. When they got all the skeletons in their closet, we remember the whole story, the story there with Courtney Crummy Wing. We can't forget that. We can't forget the issue, the shooting to death of that university student, Nancy Douglas. We cannot forget the shooting of the three young men from Linden just yesterday. They celebrated another death anniversary. We cannot forget the shooting, the killing of the Henry Boys and Harry Singh, the Orin Boston from Essequibo, Quinton Back. We cannot forget these issues. The real beast are the PPP. And our people must understand that in order for this country to regain semblance and to return to normalcy, we have to get rid of the beast. The PPP understand how it feels to shoot and kill people. We can't forget the woman who was killed outside of the office of the president. You remember when Mark Benschop was held? We cannot forget those issues. We have to bring these issues back up to the fore for people to understand that the PPP are no easy bunch of people. When the PPP could have one of their own ministers killed while they are in office, and absolutely nothing could come out of that story. No form of satisfaction or justice was given to that family. Then you can understand how dangerous it is that with this bunch that we have here who are ruling this country. And you know what I find strange is that you don't hear anything from people like Schumann and them who talk about we are there to represent the indigenous people. Schumann was masquerading himself all the time in Parliament with his outfit there, with all his butt outside and so on. You're not hearing anything from him?
Probably Nigel and all probably was looking at him. Who knows? He probably was looking at how he appeared, and then imagine how the indigenous girls would appear
in front of him.
In the things.
Gosh,
you see, but I could recall clearly when before Schumann became a part that he will not be muzzled. And speaking on behalf of the indigenous people, I could never ever forget that. But he disappointed me when he was in Parliament. But I guess the people have seen the true side of him. They have seen the true colors of him. And so the people will speak when it's time to speak. And speaking alone does not mean you're audible when you're speaking. There are other ways on how you speak and how you go to practice your democratic rights to get rid of the beast. So I won't want to speak, but the indigenous people knows how to speak. Silence is a form of speaking.
Well,
Silence is a one way of speaking. And then there are other ways too that I know, and I'm quite sure that my indigenous brothers and sisters will exercise when that right time comes.
well,
They will do that exercise. But I want to encourage them to be bold enough to speak up. Do not be afraid of anybody else. Don't be afraid of another human being like you. Do not be afraid to speak up and to stand up. We know what is right. We know what is wrong. We know when we are being treated equal. We know when we're being treated not equal, given the same opportunity or not given. We know, and I encourage those who are gaining courage and that momentum to stand up and to speak up. Continue. Tell your brother, your sister, your family that whenever they see wrong is being done to your sister, your neighbor, we need to represent and speak up. So kudos again. I want to commend those who who take their democratic right to another step to go and speak up, whether it's by protesting, picketing, coming on Facebook, social media, whatever form, use it. Use it to your best to stand up and to speak up against evil.
While we're talking about the shooting of persons, we must remind our viewers and all those who are listening to us from wherever you are, we must remind them about what the PPP did to our folks in Mocha. We have to remind them of what they did to the people. You said it earlier, the folks at Hillfoot. Women, most of them were single women with their children. Their homes were destroyed. They have nowhere to live. Young babies months old, are sleeping in the dew. We cannot forget what the PPP did to our folks in Success when they flooded their homes at nights. We cannot forget those issues. We cannot forget what they did to the people in Buxton. We will never forget what has happened to our 20 Amerindian children in Madia 50-something days ago. We cannot forget those issues. And these are the issues that we have to remind our people. And our people must remind the PPP when they come into your areas. Ask them the hard questions. Tell us what has happened. Where do we go from here? Why did you not ensure that justice was served? And when we keep reminding our folks about the sufferings that the PPP have brought upon this nation, then our citizens will do what they have to do. And you know what I noticed is that even the PPP supporters are disappointed in them. They are not saying anything much, but when we look at the way the voting was exercised during the local government elections, we see clearly that they're upset with them. And so it's not a case where only the persons who are supporting the coalition as opposition are being trampled, their rights are being trampled upon. Even their own supporters, they're trampling upon their rights. We're seeing contracts upon contracts upon contracts, billions and billions of dollars. And when we look at the persons who are being awarded these contracts, you recognize there's a family here, is a friend here, is a favorite there. And so the small man continues to be a small man. How do we deal with those issues, Dama?
Coretta, Guyana is now being rated no more as a poor country based on their GDP, oil-rich country. But the reality is the poor people will remain poor. That's how it is appearing to be. Because if you
that's
go
the reality of the day.
you go visiting, they're poor. They're finding it difficult to find meals for day transportation money. And it is just a few persons who are benefiting. And the rich will get richer and the poor will get poorer in this country because of how our resources are being used. And before we close, I want to talk a little about the 15% low carbon credit
Well,
that is being given to our indigenous brothers and sisters.
before you go there, I want us to touch on, you mentioned it earlier, where the World Bank said that Guyana is now a high paying, announced that Guyana is a high income country. And given that fact, um, you hear, I don't know where they did the calculations or how the calculations were done. Maybe we will have to get Nigel Dharamlall to do those, help us with those calculations. But with Guyana being a high paying, high income country, we've recognized that our nurses are leaving in drones. Do you run from good treatment? I never know that people run from good treatment. And so if our nurses are leaving in drones, it means that something is wrong. And then I heard the announcement from the president that they're going to be importing nurses from Cuba. Now, these people ain't got no shame. You remember when they came into office, they dismantled the nursing school in Linden? Imagine we had a nursing school in Linden and they dismantled the nursing school in Linden. And now you're going to import nurses from Cuba to come to work in our hospitals, in our public hospitals. While they're doing that, they are busy building specialty hospitals. And these are not government buildings. These are private buildings. So when you put up these specialty hospitals, who go into them? The poor man and woman can't go there. I mean, I don't know how and where they sit to have these discussions, but it seems as if these people just wake up with an idea and they spill it out. They walk around and an idea flashes across and they spill it out. And of course, when we see some of what is happening in this country, it leaves one to believe and to conclude that some of these folks have had to have attended that university in IFLOT when you see the operations. I want to believe so. Because I heard the president talking about this comprehensive package that he has for teachers. Well, of course, I have to always bring in the issue of the teachers. This comprehensive package that he has for teachers. But this comprehensive package that has been announced in several areas is only this man know about this package and what this package entails. Nobody else knows about it. Now, outside of the comprehensive package, the man is now saying that he's going to go out there to consult with the teachers themselves, with groups of teachers. So what happened to the comprehensive package? It means, therefore, there was no package. And this is what the PPP are good at, lying to this nation. They continue to lie to this nation. But you know what? I'm like one of our viewers saying, the Cuban nurses will come here, spend some time, and then they'll ship themselves out and they will not go back to Cuba, but they'll find themselves in England and Canada and those places. But you were going to talk about the low carbon.
The low carbon, the credit cash grants that are given to the indigenous. But before I even touch there, Coretta, you and I know that Spanish had always been a subject on the national timetable.
Yes, but Spanish is one of the
Spanish
subjects.
has always been a subject. So when you come with this new brilliant idea of having Spanish, because I taught Spanish in grade 2, because that's where I began teaching Spanish, and you teach them the basic things. So how come now it's a brilliant new idea and that you have to bring, perhaps you may have to import Spanish teachers to
maybe
teach the subject. So not only nurses they're going to import teachers to teach Spanish too.
So we're going to have more confusion in our schools because the education system is crumbling. And so I don't know when they bring all these, and the people are so silly. Now you're bringing these Cuban teachers to teach here. You can't find money to pay our locals. But when you bring the Cubans here, you'll have to find housing, which means accommodation, semi-furnished for them. You have to provide some form of transportation and all of that for them. You can't do that for our locals, but you're bringing foreigners and you're providing these amenities for them. I mean, so Guyanese don't have rights anymore in this country. We have no more rights in this country. Foreigners have all the rights. Foreigners can come here from Barbados and they get land in Region 9 and other places to do farming. And our people right here can't have access to land to build a home on it. Where are we going?
But only a visionless leader or a visionless government will impose, certain things on their citizens instead
Right.
of caring and taking care of what they have, the resources. That is why we will always have a brain drain.
I
We
know.
will always have a brain drain.
Every time the PPP come around, we
we
have a
have a
brain
brain
drain.
drain. Exactly.
And like the leader would always say, Mr. Norton, for Guyana to grow, the PPP got to go. They got to go.
And he's right, because we're speaking from what we're seeing. It's not a story that we're making up. We hear every day new things come up, these brilliant ideas. According to you, probably they just sleep on it and then they wake up next morning and say, oh, I think this is what should be done. We should start to build hotels. We should start to do this. We should start. When we were in government, people cannot eat road.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
people eating road and buildings.
Eating road and buildings. People, the buildings and those things, people tend to eat. So these things, when you have visionless leaders who do not have the capacity to think probably, and to have a wise, structured plan for the country as a whole. We had the Green State Development Strategy.
Yeah.
We planned 10 years in advance. They're claiming that they had the LCDS. And as any wise government would do, we build on what we inherited for LCDS. We did not do away with that LCDS thing. Any wise president or a leader looks at what is there. You and I know too that a child comes not as a blank paper.
That's true.
When a child comes to a class, he or she comes with some sort of knowledge. And hence, a leader, if you become the president today, Coretta, and you're wise and you have vision, you're going to look at what is there in front of you. Not because it was PPP. You will squash all their programs. Any wise leader wouldn't do that.
Well, this set of leaders, I don't know if they're wise. I don't know what is it about them, because we have seen.
You said they're the beasts.
With the implementation. Well, beasts are supposed to be wise animals, because when you look at the way the lion operates and the bear and the tiger, the jaguar, and so on, even the snakes. They calculate, they have their parts calculated. And so it's a shame the way this government is operating. But like I was going to say just now, the David Granger administration, we had the 5 Bs. If you look at the condition of those buses, the buses that have not been sabotaged and destroyed, they got them doing all kinds of other things other than doing what it was supposed to have done. The boats doing all kinds of craziness. The buses, you got workers going and lime at nights and they go on with the buses. The bicycles, well, the children have the bicycles. The books, the breakfast, well, I noticed McGurl, of course, I got to talk about her all the time, Priya. Where she's talking about breakfast, hot meals given to the children. And I don't know where she discovered these interventions from. She, like I would always call her Columbus's little sister, because she always feels that she's discovering something new. But we have to remind these folks that under the PNC with LFS Burnham, you remember the days when we had Cerex in school and hot milk and biscuit? Yeah. So I don't know where Priya coming now with you think first time ever this school and schools are going to be getting this in school. Oh my God, I'm sorry for you sometimes. Really, really sorry for you sometimes.
There will be first time for the new schools that are being built around the country. If they're building any new nursery school, that will be a first time for that school, but not first time for the country.
And this is what I keep saying, not the first time for the country, because these things have happened before. Textbooks, exercise books. We all got that when we were going to schools. As a matter of fact, in some areas, you even got pencils and erasers and geometry sets, if you remember that. So I don't understand when Priya jump around, and Priya got a set of mad people around her anyhow, and she crazy herself. So I could understand why we're having some of the craziness. But before you talk about the LCDs, let's look at what is happening what has just happened with the grade 6. Yes, I'm Pamela Boyle. The PPP don't have a plan for this country. All they know what to do is to thief the money, aid in corruption and more corruption and discrimination, and they know how to divide and rule. That's all they know how to do. And I'm happy that our people are recognizing, our viewers are recognizing that. But like I was saying, we got the education system is on a downhill. We're building a whole lot of schools, and I'm wondering who we're putting in those schools when we're building those schools. I noticed that we're building schools right around the corner from each other. Do we have all of those children to fill in those schools, or is it a job for the boys and job for their families and the good life for them? We have also seen where I was going to talk about the grade 6 assessment results, where it's the lowest ever that we have seen. And you know what they're going to blame that on? They're going to blame it on COVID. But the CXC results weren't blamed on COVID, and we had high-flying results. But we are seeing point something and point something and point something now in the grade 6 results. I've never seen that happen in all those years. But now we're getting 506 point something and 504 point something. I don't know where we're going, but I guess all of these are new interventions coming from my very good friend Priya Manikchand.
Well, talking about the grade 6 results, well, I was looking at the results coming from the hinterland schools. And I always say they're at an disadvantage,
Yes.
due to lack of trained teachers. But I must say there are untrained teachers who are very committed.
Mm-hmm. And we must commend
and
them.
we must commend those teachers all around the country. I have seen teachers in a moonlight with little tablets trying to get onto this goal program, this online goal program. I feel so sorry for them because they said they register, and then they cannot get to do these courses.
Some of them cannot complete the courses.
The majority of them cannot complete, and they still have to end up bringing them to CPC dorms and
when the coalition was in government, the coalition had internet hubs that were set up, and these hubs were dismantled by the PPP when they got into office. And what is happening now? Our people are suffering, especially our citizens in the hinterland. They are suffering. Sometimes you're trying to get onto the teachers in Moruca. You can't get to them at a certain time until some long time after, when they have to go close up to the hill, go up on the top, climb up on a tree. These are the kinds of things that our teachers are going through. And it's disgusting. And those are the things that Priya must talk about. We don't hear her talk about those things. We must hear her talk about those teachers who have to walk very, very long distances to get to school. Why the ministry can't provide transportation for them? Why the education and local government can't provide transportation for them? And this is what the David Granger government was doing when we provided those buses. Those buses were taking teachers, nurses, as well as students to schools. Now we break up the buses, and the children can't get to school. They got to trolley back on the mini buses to be doubling up, and mini bus going fast with them. And next thing you know, somebody jams somebody, and there's a whole lot of foolishness, which is one of the things that we have no control over right now. Accidents, murders, the execution style shooting again started, all kinds of craziness.
Fires, schools being burned.
Well, they don't talk about the fires. In 6 months, we've had
Christchurch, St. George's.
A whole big number of children that have died and adults through fire in 6 months. I had the numbers somewhere, but I can't get it right now. But it's alarming. But we were going to talk about the LCDs.
Well, you identified all that's happening in our schools. Probably that's what they call transformational development in Guyana. The children having no access to internet, teachers having no access to internet in this present oil-rich country, when we talking about billions of dollars in budget, and then coming to Parliament to ask for supplementary budget Not millions, Coretta, billions. So children in
before
the
you continue,
hinterland.
I like what I'm seeing there from Dawn. Karen, welcome. Karen, welcome said the government is a complete failure.
Yeah.
The government is a complete failure. Somebody else had one there just now. And so people understand what is happening. The government is a complete failure. And it's not easy for us to see. You see roads are being built, and 2 days after, the edges of the road gone. And so it starts eating in. And you want to know, this is not the road that they built 3 months ago. But I want folks to go out there to see the roads that were built by the coalition. They're still standing after 5+ years. They're still standing. You go into Lethem, you go to Madia, you go to Port Kaituma and see those roads that were built by the coalition. Best, second to none. Not the foolishness that we're getting now from the DPP.
And you're seeing it right here in Georgetown. You
Yep.
drive around,
Mm-hmm.
you see how they're looking after those drains. And I am not an engineer. I don't have an engineer background, but common sense would tell me, looking at those roads, how they are being built.
Look, we're seeing here Bartica. The folks in Bartica were protesting yesterday because there are sections of roads, streets and avenues in Bartica where coalition supporters live, and they've refused to do those roads. And these are the people who preach one Guyana. I wonder where Irfan Ali is sometimes. If he doesn't see these things, if he doesn't hear about them, or he doesn't listen to what he doesn't see, look at what is on Facebook. Conveniently, he doesn't look at what is on Facebook
I was
sometimes.
just going to tell you that he listens to what he wants to listen, and he looks at what he wants to look at.
Mm-hmm.
But he forget that this is one country. Guyana is one country. And it reminds me of a joke. You ask somebody from Berbice, they say they come from the country, another country. Which country? Berbice.
Berbice,
But they were quite right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if you come from Bartica, you say, no, that Bartica is not in Guyana. It's a different country. Because they're not getting the same treatment. They're not getting the same
This is Bart.
Look at that road.
This is Bartica.
Tell me what can happen to a young pregnant woman traveling on that road.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even to the vehicle owners. You know this little TikTok, what's his name? Sion?
Yeah.
I was in Bartica and little Sion came to me and he said, you know what? He called me, you know what, PM?
Okay.
You can't say MP. I had to correct him. He said, I would like to have an appointment with the president of this country. He's a brilliant young man.
Yes,
He's very brave and brave.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what are you going to tell the president? He said, I'm going to tell the president that my uncle's car, the road to, I can't remember the road that he called, is so bad that my uncle's car, it destroys, it damages my uncle's car.
And
Imagine little
he
Tion.
is just about 4 years
Yes,
old.
he's a nursery child, little Tion, a brilliant mind.
Mm-hmm.
And if a little child, that's why it's good to see through the eyes of children.
Children,
Children will tell you when you're looking good and when you're not looking good.
Yep.
But if you ask an adult, they will tell you what you want to hear. But this little child, imagine himself, is talking about the conditions of the road in Bartica, a little nursery child. So
how long can we go on with this madness? Our view is asking, how long can we go on with this madness? Which means that as a people, we will have to start strategizing and mobilizing and coming out in our areas. Every time the PPP come to your areas, you must chase them. You must ask them the right questions. When they come, don't listen to them. Tell them to fix the roads. Tell them to fix the water system. Well, don't talk about the water system. Right now, we got dengue, typhoid, malaria, everything happening right now. COVID on the rise, everything happening right now. Every single thing happening under the PPP. And all of these billions and billions of dollars that are approved by the parliament. And you notice, only when they have budgets to be passed, when they want approval for spending monies that they've already spent, then is when they call in a sitting of parliament. You notice that? And it's one of the things that our people, viewers, I must say to you that it's one of the things that you will have to come out and stand up with us. so that we can rectify what is happening here. The PPP must not feel that they can bully us and they can do whatever they want to do when they want to do it. They are there to perform a task for the people, not for themselves.
Well, you're correct. Cleanliness is next to godliness.
Mhm.
And if you see what's happening around our city,
Yeah.
garbage piles here.
Again.
So that enables virus and bacteria and everything to develop, And so we will have dengue, we will have malaria. Just the other day, somebody from Baltica called me. MPs, our garbage hasn't been picked up for 3 to 4 days. The garbage bins are overflowing. I said, who is the mayor of Baltica now?
Yep. Mhm.
Who's the mayor
Let
of
them fix
Baltica? And who's the deputy mayor of Baltica?
Let them fix
at present? Let them fix it. Go to your mayors and tell them that your garbage are being, are overflowing.
It's
And if we
sickening.
don't, it's sickening. I am saying to you, when we think we are punishing poor people, there is a God
Mhm.
that loves the rich and the poor.
And the poor, yes.
So
And-
when
and he's going
you
to answer their
are in
prayers.
authority and you think that you are punishing poor people, watch yourself.
But I'd be very happy to hear from the likes of Jerry Gavile. I don't hear him. I haven't heard anything concerning the allegations made against Dharamlall coming from Jerry Gavile. I've not heard anything from the guardians of democracy. What happened to them? They're dead?
They probably, their eyes are open now and look that there is no democracy at the moment.
So they're ashamed.
There is no, so they're ashamed. They bury their head. So that's all I can say, Coretta. That's all I can say. They're so ashamed. They can't even find themselves, speaking up. They can't even catch their foot or catch their head or catch themselves to say, when things are going wrong, they will say at it as it is. They don't have that courage to do that. I don't know what they're afraid of.
Well,
I don't know what they have to lose. I don't know what they have to hide.
I noticed one of our viewers saying, where is the Minister of Health? Like he's missing in action. Well, he's always missing. He is always missing. And I'm wondering where is men on a mission. You have not heard anything from them with this whole Dharamlall issue.
I tell you, these brilliant ideas, they just pop up, even if it's after a dream. Hot.
Men on mission.
What happened to the men on mission who's supposed to be protecting the women and the young girls? Come on, men on mission.
And the boys, shame on you. Shame on men on mission or men on a mission.
They have found a different mission.
Well, I don't know. Maybe the mission has been accomplished somewhere else and they probably disappear. So they're missing in action now. You don't hear anything about them. But it's disgusting. The atrocities that are being meted out to our indigenous brothers and sisters, our Afro-Guyanese brothers and sisters, our Indo brothers and sisters. It's a shame when you walk the streets of Guyana and you see the things that are happening to our people. I'm saying, God question how more long we're going to take this. Because I'm tired. Well, you notice people are tired, but folks, if you're tired, you have to come out and let's walk the streets. Let's stand in front of the ministries. Let's do our demonstration. We had the Secretary of State came here the other day, and I saw people commenting that, when Pompeo came, you had big red carpet. But now when you had this Secretary of State come in, you had no red carpets. You didn't pull down the road humps and so on. You don't pull down those sleeping policemen. But when Pompeo was coming, Pompeo sent his men, and you had to do all sorts of things.
It was a pompous thing.
Was a pompous one.
Show.
It was a big show. But I know one of the things that is bothering them right now is the fact that the Secretary of State met with the leader of the opposition, and they were finding out what they were talking about and who orchestrated the meeting, who organized it, whether it was from the party or whether it was from the US government. Well, that's y'all business. Keep finding out, keep checking, and hopefully you find out. What is important is that the Secretary of State had a meeting, and the information that he wanted, he got the information. I don't know. these people are so disgusted. But Don, I want to thank you for being here with us. I know that our viewers are a little more enlightened about what has been happening with regards to the 20 deaths, the 16-year-old Cuban nurses. We have Cuban teachers just now. Oh, I saw them attacking Melly Mel. Now, every time somebody talk about what the PPP is doing, they try to attack you. So I saw them attacking Melly Mel, and there was this show, Basket and Blankets, or Blankets and Baskets show that Melly Mel was one of the organizers for, and they thought she came into the country, so they had CID ranks and so on out at the show there, waiting to arrest her. But I want to say to Melly Mel, you have 100% support from the women of this country. We will continue to support you because it's not about speaking for, speaking against, it's speaking about what is wrong, what the government is doing wrong, whether it was the coalition government or whether it's the PPP. You speak about what the wrong things that are being done, and we will support you. Let them continue to file all the charges and trump up charges against you. We will walk the road with you. We will stand with you. We will sit with you. We will sing and light candles with you. Let them come. But one of the good things about Melly Mel, and this is what I admire her for, is that she has indicated long before that she will not be silenced by them. As a matter of fact, she has said that she knows quite a lot and they're scared of her. But they don't know that Melly Mel got a good plan for them. And we are going to see that plan being unfolded pretty soon. But the beast, the PPP, those are the people that we have to deal with. And maybe we are going to have to put on beast-like clothes to deal with them likewise, so that our people can be given the kind of life that they ought to receive coming out of all of the oil wealth that we have. I remember, and you mentioned it earlier too, where they were telling the people when the coalition was in government, tell them you can't eat roads, tell them you can't eat this. But how now we're seeing a whole lot of hotels going up all over the place. Hotels are going up. I wonder how many of us are going to be able to go to some of those hotels.
And I would also I'm so much interested in seeing their land use policy. Imagine this coast is already below sea level, and you have these huge buildings going up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What would you think will happen to us in time to come? What would happen to Georgetown in time to come? Who is the mastermind behind all these development, knowing that Georgetown is under sea level? Which person in his wisdom would set out to allow all these structures to go up when we have 83,000 square miles to develop?
Yeah.
83,000 square miles, and we're seeing people languishing for land just to build a home.
And you can't even get the monies from the bank because of your salaries.
Exactly. You cannot go. Even if you get a piece of land, where are you going to find the money? Even if you apply for a turnkey, where are you going to get 7 million and 8 million?
I don't know.
So all these things. And based on our discussion, I can clearly see why those women ministers in the government are silent. Because having this talk this evening and listening to people around and seeing how women are being treated in this country. Look at our acting Chief Justice and our acting Chancellor, who both are women. Why weren't they confirmed before being appointed members of the Judicial Commission?
Yep.
And they're women. They're respectful women. Women who work hard. Women who judges and things look up to. Women who are young girl. When I was young, I wanted to be a lawyer, and they were some of the persons who I look up to.
You looked up to, yes.
And to see that they're not confirmed. What is stopping the president from appointing these and confirming them to be the chancellor? How long they have to act? Haven't they acted long enough?
Well, you notice how the PPP operate. They feel that once they have you there acting, that you have to be loyal to them. So they keep dangling this around your head and over your head and around you all the time. that if you were to ever speak out against them, then they were going to silence you. You wouldn't get your appointment. And the same thing happens right across the public service, where they're comfortable. You check it, every time the PPP are in office, you have actors and actresses. We have Hollywood and Bollywood and everything else we got once the PPP are in government. They're only concerned about themselves. But Dawn, I want to thank you so much for being here with us. We're going to have to do another episode of this on advancing the cause again, because the beast, the PPP, we've got to deal with them. I noticed one of our viewers is asking that we should ensure that Dharamlall removes from the government house. He's no longer minister. He is no longer an MP, and so he must remove from the house. It means that we probably got to go there and give him some devotion early in the mornings so that he can get out of that house, because the mere fact that he is there, taxpayers' dollars are paying for the all the expenses there, because he don't pay rent, he don't pay light bill, he don't pay phone bill, he don't pay no internet bill, nothing he ain't paid. And I'm sure he's still got a government vehicle that he's driving around. He must go where it is alleged that he got some apartment building somewhere in Cummins Lodge. Let him go there and take up an apartment there, or go back to West Coast, Barbies. Well, I hear you can't go there where you come from, because that's another session. But Dawn, I want to thank you for being here with us. I know that our viewers were more than enthused with you being here, and they've learned a lot from our discussions. We're going to continue to do this on advancing the cause, where we expose all the atrocities that the PPP continue to do to the people of this country. We will continue to expose them. We will continue to advocate for the rights and equal rights, justice, and fairness for all Guyanese citizens, regardless of whether you're coalition supporter or you're a PPP supporter. We must be treated equally, because we are Guyanese. We wait to see the nurses who are going to come here, and whether we're going to have Spanish teachers, and we look forward to seeing how they're going to be able to mesh themselves into. Because when you come from a country where only Spanish and then you got to come now to learn the English and to be able to interact with the children and interact with patients, I hope patients are going to be getting a whole lot of foolish tablets that they're not supposed to get. Because we know that's been a thing of the day on the PPP, where you go to the hospital, all they give you is Panadol for every single thing. I'm hoping that we are not going to return to those days. But viewers, we want to thank you for being with us. It's always a pleasure where we can share with you, and we can have you here listening to us and sharing your ideas with us. Thank you for being there with us. Remember, I said COVID, dengue, typhoid, and so many others, malaria and so on, they're on the rise. Just be careful with what you do, be careful with where you go, and to take all the necessary precautions. Do have a wonderful night, and we'll see you again next week, Wednesday at 6:30 for more on advancing the cause. Again, Dawn, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Coretta, for having me on your program. It was a pleasure, and thank you to your viewers. May God bless us all.
Have a good night, folks.
I'm such a fool thinking I won't get caught in your downhill flow, swept away. It's a beautiful day, I'm alone in you. You're in the car at night, blue, my only flaw.
We are done that.